The conference room smelled wrong to Ambassador Tren. Not bad, just different. Everything about the human section of the diplomatic station carried that strange scent, something sharp and alive. His feathers ruffled involuntarily as he walked through the sliding doors. Colonel Roy Harper sat at the metal table, a data pad in front of him. Next to him was Lieutenant Anne Brodie, her fingers dancing across a holographic display. Neither looked up immediately. Tren found that unsettling. Most species showed immediate deference to an ambassador. "Ambassador Tren," Harper finally said, standing. His movement was smooth, controlled, predatory. "Thank you for coming." Tren's translator chip rendered the human's words into clicks and whistles. He settled onto the cushioned perch designed for his species. "Your message indicated urgency. The Council rarely seeks Earth's military council." "That's because the Council rarely faces existential threats," Brodie said. Her voice was flat, stating fact without emotion. Tren activated his own display. Images flickered into the air between them. Devastated colony worlds, burning structures, and everywhere the Ravagers. Insectal shapes moving in swarms so thick they blotted out the sun. 4 colonies in 6 months, Tren said. Our defense fleet engages them at maximum range. Energy weapons, orbital bombardment, everything we have. They adapt within hours. They close distance. Once they reach our ships, our ground installations. He trailed off. Harper leaned forward. "Show me your ground defense protocols." The question confused Tren. Ground defense. We evacuate all personnel when orbital defenses fail. There is no point in remaining. You abandon your colonies without fighting on the surface. Harper's eyebrows rose. What would be the purpose? We lack weapons effective at close range. Our people are not equipped for physical confrontation. Tren's crest flattened in distress. We are civilized beings, Colonel. We do not engage in barbarism. Something passed between Harper and Brodie, a look that Tren could not interpret. "Ambassador, what do you know about Earth?" Harper asked. "A death world, high gravity, aggressive fauna. Your species evolved as persistence hunters." Tren recited the facts he had memorized. "You are classified as dangerous but have shown no hostile intent toward council members. You have been peaceful." "Peaceful and capable of peace are different things," Brodie said. She pulled up new images. Human soldiers in combat gear. Weapons that looked crude compared to council energy rifles. "We know how to fight at every range, especially close range." Tren felt his crop tighten with anxiety. "The Council has observed human military history. Your wars, your violence, it is disturbing." "It's educational," Harper corrected. "Every mistake we made, every battle we fought taught us something. We learned tactics in blood and loss. The Council never had to learn those lessons." "And you believe this makes you qualified to help us?" Tren's tone carried skepticism. Harper stood and walked to the viewport. Beyond, the stars stretched infinite and cold. "The Ravagers are beating you because they fight like animals. Swarm tactics, overwhelming force at close range. They're doing what comes naturally to them." "And you fight how?" Tren asked. "We fight smart. We use terrain. We create kill zones. We make the enemy come to us on our terms." Harper turned back. "We fight like humans who spent 10,000 years killing each other and learned from every single death." The bluntness made Tren flinch. The Council would never approve such brutal methods. "The Council is dying," Brodie said quietly. 4 colonies now, how many next month? 10, 20. Silence filled the room. Tren's beak clicked nervously. The truth was undeniable. Traditional Council warfare had no answer for the Ravagers. "What do you propose?" Tren finally asked. "Give us volunteers from your species. Soldiers, colonists, anyone willing to learn. Give us 3 months." Harper's eyes were intense. "We'll teach them to fight like Deathworlders. The Council species are not built for combat. We are peaceful, fragile." You're survivors or you wouldn't have made it to space, Harper countered. You just survive differently than we do. We'll work with what you have. Speed, intelligence, coordination. Every species has advantages. Tren considered. The request was unprecedented. Humans had been council members for only 40 years, junior partners with limited rights, but the Ravagers were winning. More than winning, they were exterminating. If I bring this to the council, what do you want in return? Full voting rights, Brody said immediately. No more junior member status. Earth becomes a full partner. That takes 200 years minimum, Tren protested. Your people don't have 200 years, Harper said. Maybe not 200 days. We're offering you a chance. Take it or watch more colonies burn. Tren's wings trembled. The human was right. Time was a luxury the council no longer possessed. I will present your proposal, but I cannot promise approval. We don't need promises. We need commitment. Harper extended his hand. Another human gesture that Tren had learned meant agreement. Tren reached out with his wing claw and gripped the offered hand. The human skin was warm, strong, the grip firm but not crushing. Controlled violence, Tren realized. That was what humans represented. The capacity to destroy, held in check by choice. 3 months, Tren said. If you can demonstrate success, I will advocate for your full membership. We'll demonstrate success, Brody said. The question is whether the council can handle watching how we do it. As Tren left the human section, his mind churned with implications. The council was about to learn warfare from a species that had perfected it through millennia of practice. Not warfare at a distance, clean and impersonal, real warfare, close and brutal and effective. He wondered if the cure might be worse than the disease. But then he remembered the images of burning colonies, the screams of civilians caught by Ravager swarms. The council needed to change or die. Perhaps the Deathworlders could teach them to live. Within a week the council voted. The margin was narrow. Many opposed allowing humans any military authority, but fear won over prejudice. 2,000 human soldiers received deployment orders. 800 council volunteers signed up, mostly from destroyed colonies. They had nothing left to lose. The training would begin at Bastion 7, an old military station on the frontier, far from council core worlds. If the experiment failed, if the humans proved untrustworthy, the station could be destroyed remotely. Harper and Brody prepared their curriculum. They knew what was coming. The council species would be shocked, horrified, but they would learn. Or the galaxy would burn. Denna watched the humans assemble on the training field and felt her antennae twitch with nervousness. Her species, the Chittick, had evolved on a low-gravity moon. They were small, quick, built for climbing and squeezing through tight spaces, not for whatever the humans had planned. Around her stood other council volunteers. Oler, a massive mammalian from a cold world, shifted his weight uncertainly. His species had thick fur and tremendous strength but moved slowly. Next to him, Pix bobbed in her water-filled mobility suit. The amphibian's large eyes tracked every movement of the human instructors. Lieutenant Brody stood before them, her uniform crisp and dark. Most of you have never thrown a punch, never tackled an opponent, never used your body as a weapon. That changes today. A hologram flickered to life. It showed 2 humans grappling, bodies intertwined in combat. Denna's stomach lurched. The violence was so intimate, so close. Hand-to-hand combat is foundational, Brody continued. Energy weapons fail. Guns jam, but your body is always with you. We'll teach you to use it. The human instructors moved among them, demonstrating basic positions. Stance, balance, how to fall without injury. Denna tried to copy the movements, but her 6 legs made everything awkward. What worked for bipedal humans felt impossible for her anatomy. After 20 minutes, she noticed several council volunteers sitting down, breathing hard. One had vomited. The physical exertion was overwhelming for species evolved in peaceful environments. A human sergeant named Williams approached Denna. He knelt to her level, his face kind. "You're trying to move like me. Don't. Show me how you naturally fight." "My species doesn't fight," Denna protested. "Lie, every species fights. Maybe not each other, but predators, rivals for food. Show me." Denna thought back to her moon colony, when tree serpents attacked her settlement. Her people had responded by climbing to safety and dropping rocks. They used speed and altitude as advantages. She demonstrated, scuttling up Williams's body before he could react. Her claws found holds in his uniform. Within seconds, she perched on his shoulders. Williams laughed. "There it is. You're an ambush fighter, fast attack from unexpected angles." He made notes on his data pad. "We're not making you human, we're making you dangerous." Across the field, Oler struggled with a different problem. Human instructors tried to teach him to dodge, but his bulk made quick movements impossible. He looked miserable until Sergeant Chen reconsidered the approach. "You don't dodge," Chen said, studying Oler's physiology. "You're a wall. Let's teach you to be an unstoppable wall." They fitted Oler with a heavy metal shield and a door-breaching ram. When he charged at a practice barrier, the impact was tremendous. The barrier exploded into fragments. Oler stood amid the wreckage, surprised by his own effectiveness. "Shock trooper," Chen declared. "You break their lines, create openings for others to exploit." Pix faced different challenges. Her water suit restricted movement. But when Colonel Harper observed her tactical analysis of the training exercises, he recognized her true value. "You see patterns the rest of us miss," Harper said, watching Pix diagram squad movements before they happened. "Your mind is the weapon, not your body." They moved Pix to tactical operations training. She learned to coordinate different species' abilities into combined tactics. Her natural pattern recognition made her excellent at predicting enemy behavior. As weeks passed, the training evolved. Humans taught concepts that seemed alien to Council volunteers: controlled aggression, strategic retreat, psychological warfare. The idea of making noise to intimidate enemies shocked many species. Scholar Bryn attended every session, documenting everything for the Council historical record. The aquatic academic found human military culture fascinating and disturbing in equal measure. "Why do you train so hard?" Bryn asked Harper during a break. "Your species has achieved peace on your world. Why maintain such warrior traditions?" Harper watched a mixed squad running obstacle courses. Humans helping Council volunteers over walls. Aliens teaching humans to navigate tight spaces. "We have peace because we remember war's cost. The price paid in blood teaches you to value what peace means." "But you train as if expecting war to return." "We train to ensure it doesn't," Harper said. "Strength prevents conflict. Weakness invites it." The breakthrough came during Week 5. A training exercise pitted mixed squads against each other in urban combat simulation. Humans, Chittick, and others worked together using species-specific tactics. Denna's team performed the infiltration. Her people scouted ahead, mapping enemy positions through ventilation shafts and ceiling spaces. They relayed information to Pix, who coordinated the assault. Oler's heavy team breached the main entrance, drawing attention and fire. While defenders focused on the obvious threat, human and Chittick fighters struck from unexpected angles. The ambush was devastatingly effective. The defending team never stood a chance. After the exercise, Council volunteers gathered excitedly. For the first time, they had fought as a unit and won. The victory felt real, earned through coordination and trust. That evening, Denna approached Harper in the mess hall. Other Council volunteers watched, curious. "Colonel, I must ask something that troubles me," she said. "Your species' history is filled with war, millions dead in conflicts. How can we trust you teach us defense and not conquest?" Harper set down his meal. The question deserved honesty, because we learned the difference. We fought each other for thousands of years over land, resources, ideology. We thought we were different from each other. Then we met you, all of you. We realized that compared to the galaxy, humans are all the same, all family. We extended that lesson to all sapient life. But what if you hadn't learned that lesson? Denna pressed. What if you still saw others as enemies? Then you wouldn't want us teaching you to fight, Harper agreed. But we did learn, in nuclear fire and worldwide wars. We learned that violence as a solution creates more problems than it solves. We teach you to fight so you can choose when not to fight. Oler joined the conversation, his massive form settling beside them. On my world, we have a saying. The strong tree bends in the storm but doesn't break. Humans are teaching us to bend, to be flexible in combat, not rigid. Exactly, Harper said. Council military doctrine was rigid. Fight at range. Use overwhelming technology. When the Ravagers countered that, you had no backup plan. We're teaching you adaptability. Pix's voice crackled through her suit's speakers. The humans fight three-dimensionally, time as dimension. They plan for what enemy might do, not just what enemy is doing. That's called strategic thinking, Brody said, joining the group. Always have a plan, always have a backup plan, always be ready to abandon both plans and improvise. The conversations continued late into the night. Cultural exchange happened naturally. Humans learned about Council species' peaceful philosophies. Council volunteers learned about humanity's violent past and hard-won wisdom. Trust built slowly, earned through shared exhaustion and mutual respect. By the end of month 3, the integrated force was ready for testing. Council leadership arranged a live fire exercise at Outpost Crimson. The stakes were real. Nobody knew yet that the Ravagers had different plans. Klaxon screamed across Outpost Crimson 3 hours before dawn. Denna jolted awake in her bunk, and Tenny immediately detecting the panic pheromones of other Chittick in her squad. This was not a drill. All units to defensive positions, Brody's voice cut through the chaos. Ravager force inbound. This is not an exercise. Repeat, this is real contact. The barracks erupted into controlled chaos. 3 months of training took over. Soldiers grabbed weapons and equipment with practiced efficiency. Denna's claws found her climbing harness and sensor pack without conscious thought. Outside, the night sky showed stars being blocked by something massive. Sensors painted the tactical display with nightmare numbers. 2,000 Ravager signatures inbound. The defense force numbered 400. Admiral Welk's face appeared on every screen, his reptilian features pale with shock. This was supposed to be a simulation. The outpost is scheduled for decommissioning. They shouldn't even know we're here. They know now, Harper said coldly. He activated the base-wide communication system. All units execute defensive plan Theta, fall back to prepared positions, make them fight for every meter. Pix's voice crackled through tactical channels. Ravager swarm composition matches predicted patterns. 90% warriors, 10% support organisms. No ranged weapons detected. They will close distance and overwhelm through mass. Perfect, Harper said. Denna heard the grim satisfaction in his voice. They're fighting exactly how we planned for. The first wave hit the outer perimeter at 3:47 hours. Automated turrets blazed until Ravager acid blood corroded their mechanisms. Energy barriers held for 90 seconds before collapsing under sustained assault. Everything happened exactly as the humans had predicted. First squad, fall back to position 2, Williams ordered. His human team fired controlled bursts from chemically propelled rifles. The weapons looked primitive, but they punched through Ravager carapaces with devastating effect. Denna's Chittick scout team had already withdrawn from the outer perimeter. They watched from ventilation shafts as Ravagers poured through the abandoned defenses. The aliens chittered excitedly. thinking they had broken the line. "Contact in Kill Zone Alpha in 10 seconds, Denna reported. "All teams hold position," Brody commanded. Denna counted down. Ravagers flooded into the open plaza between the outer wall and inner defenses. They packed together, seeking safety in numbers. Their mistake. "Now," Harper said quietly. Explosives buried in the plaza floor detonated simultaneously. The blast, channeled upward by shaped charges, turned the open space into a killing field. Ravager bodies flew apart. The survivors reeled in confusion. From concealed positions, human and council forces opened fire. Crossfire from 3 sides cut down disorganized enemies. Ravagers that charged one position exposed themselves to flanking fire. But they adapted. The second wave spread out, avoiding the obvious kill zone. They probed for weaknesses, testing defenses at multiple points. "They're learning," Pix observed, adjusting tactics based on observation. "Then we teach them a new lesson," Harper said. "Squad 7, execute fighting, retreat down Corridor 4, make it look panicked." Oler's heavy team performed the maneuver perfectly. They fired wild shots while backing down the corridor, appearing desperate and disorganized. Ravagers took the bait and pursued. The corridor was a trap, narrow enough to limit Ravager numbers, long enough that retreat was impossible. When Oler's team reached the far end, doors slammed shut behind them. The Ravagers found themselves trapped in a shooting gallery. Automated guns emerged from walls. Fire poured from both ends. The aliens died screaming in a confined space that negated all their advantages. "Brutal," Bryn whispered from the command center. The scholar watched the tactical feeds with horrified fascination. "Effective," Harper corrected. "We're not trying to beat them fairly, we're trying to survive." The battle raged for 6 hours. Ravagers kept coming in waves, each learning from the previous. They started avoiding corridors, started checking for traps, started coordinating better. Harper countered every adaptation. When Ravagers learned to check ceilings, Denna's scouts attacked from floor vents. When they started spacing out, Oler's teams hit them with area effect weapons. When they tried to flank, human snipers picked off scouts. The turning point came at dawn. A Ravager shock force broke through the eastern defenses and surrounded a mixed human council squad. 30 soldiers cut off from reinforcements, 300 Ravagers closing in. Standard council doctrine said those soldiers were lost. Abandon them, seal the breach, minimize casualties. "Negative," Harper said when Welks suggested retreat. "We don't leave people behind." "You'll lose more trying to save them," Welks protested. "Then we lose more, but we try." Harper switched to squad-level tactical. "Surrounded units, execute breakthrough maneuver 17. Denna didn't understand at first. The surrounded squad didn't retreat away from enemies. They charged directly at the densest Ravager concentration. The maneuver was insane, suicidal, 30 against 300 in close combat. But the humans had taught one critical lesson about close combat. Confusion worked both ways. The squad hit the Ravager line like a hammer. Explosives, blades, point-blank gunfire, not trying to fight through, just creating chaos and moving fast. The Ravagers expected prey to run away. When prey attacked, they hesitated. That moment of confusion was enough. The squad punched through the encirclement, then circled behind Ravager positions. Now the hunters were caught between the breaching squad and the main defensive line. Crossfire eliminated them in minutes. "Impossible," Welks breathed. "They broke an encirclement by attacking into it." "Human tactics," Brody said. "Sometimes the unexpected is your best weapon." By noon, the Ravager assault faltered. They had lost over 1,100 warriors. The defense force had taken casualties but remained operational, most injuries rather than deaths. The remaining Ravagers withdrew, not defeated but unwilling to continue feeding soldiers into a meat grinder. Harper stood on the damaged outer wall, watching them retreat. Brody joined him, her uniform scorched and torn. 62 wounded, 5 dead, she reported. Outpost Crimson held against forces 5 times our number. The Council is watching, Harper said, gesturing to orbital platforms bristling with sensors. They saw everything. Think they'll approve? They'll be terrified, of us or the Ravagers, I'm not sure which, Harper smiled grimly. But fear is honest, better than contempt. Below them, mixed human and Council teams worked together pulling wounded from rubble. Denna's scouts guided medics to trap soldiers. Oler's heavy teams lifted debris too massive for others. Species working together. Different abilities combining into something greater than the sum of parts. In orbit, Admiral Welks composed his report to the Council. His claws shook as he wrote. The humans had won. But the methods they used, the violence they employed, the tactical ruthlessness they demonstrated. The galaxy would never be the same. He attached the battle recordings and sent the report. Within hours, it would reach every Council world. Politicians, military leaders, and civilians would watch Deathworlders teach the galaxy how to survive. Whether the galaxy wanted to learn or not. The Council chamber had never felt so crowded despite being designed for 10,000 representatives. Councillor Dreth stood at the central podium, his crystalline body refracting light in sharp angles. The silicon-based life form had existed for 600 years and witnessed countless debates. None compared to this. We invited wolves to guard our sheep, Dreth said, his translated voice resonating through the amphitheater. Now we express shock when they bare teeth. On screens throughout the chamber, footage from Outpost Crimson played on loop, explosions tearing through Ravager formations, human soldiers firing weapons at point-blank range, the trap in Corridor 4 where hundreds died in confined space. Council representatives from peaceful species looked away, unable to watch. Effective tactics, Councillor Yana countered from her position opposite Dreth. The mammalian diplomat's fur showed gray from stress. My colony world begged for help before Ravagers consumed it. These tactics could have saved 10,000 lives. At what cost to our civilization? Dreth's body pulsed with agitation. We have maintained peace for 3 millennia through reason and technology. These humans advocate barbarism dressed as strategy. Ambassador Tren waited for his turn to speak. His feathers lay flat against his body. The recordings troubled him deeply. He had known humans were violent. Knowing was different from witnessing. The debate raged for hours. Conservative representatives argued humans were too dangerous to empower. Progressive delegates pointed to undeniable results. 400 had held against 2,000. Council forces never achieved such results. Finally, Tren received speaking rights. He approached the podium where Harper and Brody waited, flanked by security. Colonel Harper, the Council wishes to understand human military philosophy, Tren said formally. You teach violence to peaceful species. How do you justify this? Harper's response came without hesitation. We don't teach violence. We teach controlled application of force in defense of civilization. There's a critical difference. Explain this difference, Dreth demanded. Your history shows millions dead in human conflicts. How are you qualified to instruct anyone on defensive warfare? Because we learned from those millions of deaths, Brody said. Her voice carried through the chamber. Every mistake, every atrocity, every failed strategy, we paid for our education in blood. The Council can learn from our experience without paying the same price. Yet you advocate tactics that result in massive enemy casualties, Dreth pressed. Yes, Harper agreed simply. Because the alternative is massive friendly casualties. War is not fair combat, it's survival. The side that survives wins. The side that doesn't becomes historical footnote. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Such blunt assessment of violence disturbed many. Yana stepped forward. I propose we view testimony from council volunteers who trained with humans. Let them speak about this supposed barbarism. The screens changed. Denna appeared, her antennae twitching nervously at addressing the entire council. My species evolved as prey. We climbed to safety when predators threatened. Humans taught us to use those instincts tactically. They didn't make us violent. They made us effective. Oler's testimony followed. I thought strength meant never fighting. Humans taught me strength means choosing when to fight, and when fighting becomes necessary, ending it quickly to minimize suffering. Pix's analysis was most compelling to academic representatives. Human tactical doctrine incorporates probability, psychology, and strategic flexibility. It's not mindless aggression. It's applied mathematics with ethical constraints. Ethical constraints, Dreth's laugh echoed metallically. I saw the recordings. Where was ethics in that corridor massacre? In the warning broadcasts before we triggered the trap, Harper said quietly. In the offer to surrender, we transmitted on all frequencies. In the fact that we didn't pursue retreating forces or target wounded enemies. Ethics doesn't mean refusing to fight. It means fighting within rules even when enemies don't. The debate continued into the second day. Representatives argued about human nature, warfare philosophy, the price of peace versus the cost of survival. Scholar Bryn finally requested speaking time. The academic had spent 3 months observing human training. Their testimony carried weight. I have studied human history extensively, Bryn said. They are indeed violent, but I propose the council is asking the wrong question. Not whether humans are violent, but whether they control their violence. And do they? Someone called from the assembly. They are here negotiating instead of conquering despite clear military advantage, Bryn replied. They train our forces rather than replacing them. They seek partnership, not dominance. I submit that humans who have mastered violence are precisely who should teach others how to defend against it. Private conversations erupted across the chamber, representatives conferring with advisors, delegations caucusing. Finally, Yana called for formal vote. I propose establishing integrated defense force under Joint Human Council command. Colonel Harper leads tactical operations. Council Oversight Committee maintains strategic authority. Earth receives provisional full voting rights pending IDF success. I second with amendment, another representative added. Limit initial human advisors to 50,000 personnel. Expansion requires council approval. The voting took hours. Arguments continued even as delegates registered positions. When results appeared, the chamber fell silent. 51% in favor, 49 opposed. The narrowest possible margin. Enough to authorize the program but revealing deep divisions. Dreth's crystalline body darkened with displeasure. This council will regret empowering Deathworlders. Mark this date as when we lost our peaceful nature. Or as when we gained the strength to defend it, Yana countered. Harper and Brody accepted the authorization with military precision. No celebration, no gloating. Professional acknowledgement of responsibility granted. Outside the chamber, Tren found Harper staring at a monument to council peacekeeping. 3,000 years without major wars, an achievement unprecedented in galactic history. You understand the pressure now, Tren said. 51% support, half the council fears you. Fear is honest, Harper replied. Better than contempt or dismissal. We'll prove them wrong or prove them right through our actions. And if you fail, then the council finds other defenders, but we won't fail. Too many lives depend on success. Harper paused. Your people gave us a chance when you didn't have to. We take that seriously. Authorization broadcasts went out across council space. 50,000 human military advisors prepared for deployment. 200,000 council volunteers signed up for IDF training. Former enemies would learn to fight together. The Ravagers continued their expansion, unaware that their tactics had become obsolete. They would learn soon enough. In her private quarters, Yana reviewed casualty reports from lost colonies. Thousands dead, families destroyed, civilizations erased. The humans offered hope, violent, disturbing hope, but hope nonetheless. She activated her personal log. Today the Council chose survival over purity. We invited predators to teach us how to survive among predators. History will judge whether this was wisdom or folly. I believe it was both, and I believe it was necessary. The die was cast. The galaxy would change. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen. 8 months of defensive victories had taught the Ravagers fear. They no longer swarmed Council positions recklessly. They probed carefully. They adapted tactics. They learned. But they kept coming. Captain Orin gripped the railing of his ship's observation deck and stared at the star charts. The relentless dawn led a fleet of 40 Council warships deep into uncharted space, toward the Ravager homeworld. "This is madness," his second officer muttered. "Offensive warfare violates every Council principle." "Defensive warfare isn't working," Orin replied. His species had thick fur adapted for cold worlds. Now it stood on end with anxiety. "The Ravagers rebuild faster than we destroy them. We need to cut off the source." Harper approached, Brody at his side. Both humans looked exhausted. 8 months of constant deployment showed in their faces. "Final briefing in 10 minutes, Harper said. "Make sure your crew is ready." The briefing room filled with representatives from 20 species, military personnel who had volunteered for this controversial operation. IDF soldiers wearing patches marking their home worlds and mixed species units. Denna coordinated reconnaissance data on the holographic display. Her antennae twitched as she highlighted Ravager patrol patterns. They don't expect attack. All defensive positions face outward toward Council space. "Arrogance," Oler rumbled. The massive alien now commanded an entire heavy assault battalion. "They think we're still prey." "We were prey," Pix corrected through her suit speakers. "Past tense, now we hunt." The tactical display showed the Ravager home system. 3 planets, massive biostructures in orbit, thousands of signatures indicating military presence. "Our target isn't the planets," Brody explained. "Sensor analysis shows all Ravager military coordination originates from this structure." She highlighted a pulsing node on the largest planet's surface. "We destroy the command nexus. Their forces across the galaxy lose coordination." "You're proposing decapitation strike," one captain said. "Council doctrine considers such tactics barbaric." "Council doctrine let them take 4 colonies," Harper said bluntly. "New doctrine ends the threat. Your choice which you prefer." Orin settled the debate. "We voted to come. We execute the mission. Arguments are pointless now." The fleet approached using human deception tactics. They broadcast fake distress signals, appeared to retreat when Ravager patrols investigated, drew defenders away from the homeworld. Ravagers took the bait. They had learned to counter human tactics but not human psychology. They still thought like predators chasing fleeing prey. When the Ravager fleet committed to pursuit, Harper gave the order, "Execute insertion now." 5,000 IDF troops launched from hidden positions. Drop pods fell toward the planet like deadly rain. The Ravagers detected them too late. Denna's pod hit first. Her Chittick team deployed and immediately scattered into nearby biostructures. They moved through ventilation passages and maintenance tunnels that Ravager warriors couldn't access. Within minutes, they mapped the command nexus perimeter and identified weak points. Oler's heavy teams landed with less subtlety. Their pods crashed through defensive barriers, and the massive soldiers emerged firing. Ravager defenders rushed to engage but found themselves facing opponents who wouldn't break under pressure. "Breaching point Alpha," Oler reported. His team planted explosives on a massive door. The blast tore it open. Ravager warriors poured through the gap. Into prepared crossfire, human and council soldiers had positioned themselves perfectly. The Ravagers died in their own doorway. But this was the Ravager homeworld. Millions of warriors defended it. For every one that fell, two more appeared. Casualties mounting, Brody reported from the command ship. We're taking 30% losses in some units. Execute contingency, Harper ordered. Contingency meant controlled chaos. Instead of following rigid attack plans, squads operated independently. They used initiative and improvisation. When one route became blocked, they found another. When defenders concentrated at one position, attackers struck somewhere else. The Ravagers couldn't predict movements that weren't following a plan. Their command structure worked through coordinated responses to expected threats. Humans taught the IDF to be unexpected. Pix coordinated from the tactical center, but even she couldn't track everything. Multiple units operating beyond my sensor range. They're inside the command nexus structure. Trust their training, Harper said. We taught them to think, not just follow orders. Deep inside the biostructure, Dena's team found something unexpected. The command nexus wasn't a computer. It was alive. A massive organism with neural connections spreading through the entire building. And it was screaming. Not in sound, in bioelectric pulses that Pix's species could sense. Pain, fear, desperation. Something's wrong, Pix transmitted. The command organism is transmitting distress, not tactical data, actual distress. Harper and a human strike team reached the central chamber minutes later. What they found changed everything. The organism was imprisoned. Biomechanical restraints held it immobile. Tubes and wires forced connections to its neural tissue. When it sensed their presence, it pulsed a message. Help me. Stand down, Harper ordered across all channels. Do not destroy the target. Repeat, do not destroy target. What? Brody's confusion carried through the comm. That's the mission objective. It's a prisoner, not a commander, Harper said. The Ravagers aren't a military force. They're slaves. Pix established a bioelectric interface with the organism. What she learned horrified her. The command organism was a parasite from another galaxy. It invaded Ravager civilization 300 years ago, took control of their military caste, forced them to wage war. The Ravagers were victims. We can free them, Pix said. Sever the neural connections. The organism can be contained. Or we destroy it and end the threat permanently, one officer suggested. Harper looked at the pulsing organism, at the Ravager warriors lying dead throughout the structure, at the IDF soldiers who had died fighting here. We came to end a war, he said quietly, not genocide a species that couldn't help what they were doing. The decision took seconds, but carried weight that would echo for years. Prepare containment protocols, Harper ordered. We're taking the parasite alive, and we're freeing the Ravagers. The extraction was brutal. Ravager warriors fought desperately to prevent it, still under the parasite's control. But as connections severed, something remarkable happened. Warriors stopped fighting, stood confused. Some collapsed. Others looked at their own claws as if seeing them for first time. One approached Harper carefully. Its mandibles moved in a pattern that translators struggled to interpret. Finally, the meaning came through. Why did you stop? Because you weren't the enemy, Harper said. The thing controlling you was. Across the planet, across the galaxy, Ravager forces felt the control release. 3 centuries of forced warfare ended in moments. Some kept fighting from habit. Others surrendered immediately. Most simply stopped, overwhelmed by sudden freedom. The IDF had come to destroy an enemy. Instead, they freed an enslaved species. In the aftermath, Oren stood beside Harper watching Ravager civilians emerge from hiding, families reuniting, warriors weeping as they realized what they had done under control. The Council will debate this for decades, Oren said. Let them debate, Harper replied. We made the right choice. How do you know? Because we had the power to destroy them and chose mercy instead. That's what separates warriors from monsters. 6 months after the Ravager homeworld operation, Denna stood at the memorial on Bastion 7 reading names carved into black stone. Humans, Chittick, dozens of species, all who died learning a new way of war. Her antennae brushed against the inscription at the base. Victory is not defined by enemies defeated, but by former enemies befriended. Strange words for a military memorial, someone said behind her. Denna turned to find a Ravager standing there. His carapace bore scars from the homeworld battle. A translator device hung around his neck. I am Torin, he said carefully. I commanded warriors during the time we were controlled. I killed many of your people. You were a prisoner in your own body, Denna replied. The parasite killed them, not you. The council debates whether there is difference. Torin's mandibles clicked nervously. Some want us tried for war crimes. Others want us as allies. I do not know which we deserve. Neither, Denna said. You deserve the chance to choose what you become next. At the council chamber, that same debate raged. Councillor Dreth demanded justice for colonies destroyed. Councillor Yana argued for reconciliation. The vote would determine whether Ravagers faced prosecution or integration. Harper testified before the assembly. The Ravagers were weapons used by another intelligence. Prosecuting them makes as much sense as prosecuting the guns we used in combat. Guns are not sentient, Dreth countered. Ravagers made choices even under control. Did they? Brody pulled up neurological scans. The parasite overrode their conscious decision-making. They experienced their actions but couldn't prevent them. That's not choice. That's torture. The council remained divided until an unexpected voice joined the debate. Scholar Bryn had finished their comprehensive study. The academic's report provided historical context that shifted perspectives. In human history, Bryn explained, many conflicts ended with victor punishing defeated. This created cycles of revenge lasting generations. Humans eventually learned different approach, restorative justice, rehabilitation over punishment. This wisdom came from their most terrible mistakes. You argue we should learn from human errors, Dreth asked. I argue we should learn from their growth beyond those errors, Bryn replied. The Ravagers were enslaved. Free them and they become potential allies. Punish them and we create enemies who had no choice in their crimes. The vote was closer than the authorization for IDF had been, 53% in favor of integration. The Ravagers would be granted Provisional Council membership with Earth as sponsor. They would help rebuild destroyed colonies, contribute to defensive forces, prove through actions their commitment to peace. Some council members left in protest. Others accepted the decision reluctantly. But the galaxy had changed in ways that couldn't be reversed. Harper received promotion to general and command of expanded IDF operations. 500,000 personnel now, representing all council species plus the Ravagers. On his first day in the new role, he addressed the assembled forces via holographic transmission. 8 months ago, the council asked humans to teach warfare. We taught something else. We taught adaptation, flexibility, the understanding that strength comes not from weapons but from thinking beyond expected patterns. He paused, looking across the mixed species audience. You learned that lesson well, better than we expected. Now you teach each other. Share what your species does best. Combine those strengths into something greater. Oler commanded the IDF Training Academy. He worked with Ravager volunteers, helping them channel their natural warrior abilities into disciplined defense rather than uncontrolled aggression. Pix designed new tactical doctrines incorporating lessons from the homeworld operation. Her insights about psychological warfare and flexible command structures became standard training. Denna led the first all-council special forces unit. No humans in command. She applied human principles but added innovations from Chidic mobility and Ravager strength. The parasite organism remained contained in a maximum security research facility. Scientists studied it, learning about extragalactic threats. The knowledge prepared the Council for dangers beyond their borders. Torin joined the IDF as cultural liaison between Ravagers and other species. He trained former warriors in controlling instincts that had been weaponized against their will, teaching them the difference between capacity for violence and choosing violence. 1 year after Outpost Crimson, Ambassador Tren visited Earth for the formal ceremony granting full council membership. He stood in a reconstructed battlefield memorial, surrounded by human veterans. "I came to your world fearing you would teach us to be monsters," Tren said during his speech. "Instead, you taught us that monsters are not born from capacity for violence, but from inability to control it." The ceremony concluded with military demonstrations. IDF units performing integrated combat exercises. Species working together with precision that would have seemed impossible 2 years earlier. But the most powerful moment came during the cultural exchange program. Ravager children attended schools on Council worlds, learning beside species their ancestors had attacked, playing games instead of fighting wars. One human teacher reported a conversation with a young Ravager student. The child asked if humans would forgive them for what happened, the teacher said. "I explained that forgiveness required blame, and they were never to blame. They asked what they should do instead. I told them to build something better than what was destroyed." That philosophy spread across IDF culture, not revenge, not even justice in traditional sense, building something new from the wreckage of war. Harper retired from active duty 3 years after the first mission. He returned to Earth, declining offers to remain in command. "I taught what I could," he told Brody during his departure ceremony. "Now they teach each other. They don't need humans leading them anymore." "They'll always need the lessons you brought," Brody replied. She had accepted command of IDF operations. "The lessons aren't uniquely human," Harper said. "We just learned them first through hard experience. Other species are learning the same lessons through our experience instead of their own. That's the real victory." Denna visited him before he left, brought a gift from the IDF personnel, a datapad containing messages from thousands of soldiers, gratitude, stories, lessons they had learned and were now teaching others. "You changed the galaxy," Denna said simply. "The galaxy changed itself," Harper corrected. "We just showed you that change was possible." Years passed. The IDF grew to millions. New threats emerged from deep space. The Council faced them not as victims but as warriors who chose when to fight. Bastion 7 became the memorial site and academy where all species learned together. The training grounds where Harper first taught Council volunteers transformed into gardens, but the lessons remained carved in stone. Strength without wisdom is tyranny. Wisdom without strength is vulnerability. Together they create civilization. Council historians debated the Deathworlder era's significance. Some called it the moment peace died. Others claimed it was when peace learned to defend itself. Brin's final historical analysis provided perspective that satisfied neither extreme. "The humans did not teach the Council to abandon peace," Brin wrote. "They taught that peace is a choice that requires strength to maintain, that civilization is not the absence of warriors but warriors who choose civilization over conquest. This is humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not tactics or weapons, but the wisdom earned through millennia of mistakes. The knowledge that those capable of violence who choose peace are more valuable than those incapable of violence who have no choice." The Council moved forward, changed, stronger, more capable, and still fundamentally committed to peace. Just now prepared to defend it.